Hello.
Hello.
This is Hugo Girl, the podcast where we read Hugo Award-winning novels and novelettes and short stories and also other things because we can.
Because it's our podcast and not yours.
And today we are reading the short story Welcome to Your Authentic Indian Experience, TM, the tiny TM that means trademark, by Rebecca Roanhorse, which won the Hugo Award for Best Short Story in 2018 and the Nebula for Best Short Story in 2017, and a couple of other awards as well that I did not write down. I think it's like a Locus Award.
It won a Sturgeon Award. No, it was a Sturgeon Award nominee, Locus Recommended Story, and an Apex Reader's Choice.
So it won a lot of things, and well-deserved because this is really good.
It was really good. And she also, I've looked into Little Rebecca, and I am about to purchase. She has written 2 novels in this. I think it's going to be a trilogy. One is called Trail of Lightning, and one is called Storm of Locusts. And I am about to purchase those because they look very good. And Trail of Lightning got a lot of accolades and got nominated for a Hugo and all sorts of things too.
She also wrote Resistance Reborn, which is a Star Wars novel.
Yeah,
and I'm reading that.
How is
it? It is. Well, I'm like about 50 pages into it. I'm not very far into it, but it's perfectly fine.
Yeah,
it's perfectly.
Right.
Wait. Is this the one where they say BB8?
Yes, where they spell BB8 BEE BEE ATE. BB8.
It's not even EIGHT.
No, I know. Kevin was like, but there's already a word for 8. There's a way to spell it, but that's the same with R2. But I know R2 looks cute to me. It
looks like the shape of R2D2, the little A.
Yes, I agree. R2 really doesn't bother me. 3PO doesn't bother me. C3PO is sort of weird. But BB8, as I tweeted, and
BB8.
several people agreed, I draw the line at BB8.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm going to assume it was not Rebecca Roanhorse's choice.
No, I'm sure like Haley said, it's some kind of like the Star Wars style manual.
Right.
Oh, there's a fake Twitter account for the Star Wars style manual. It's really fun. It's like,
oh my gosh, I would look on it if I hadn't been banned.
The plural of Jedi is Jedi. Death Star, capital D, capital S.
Amy, would you like to share with our listeners why you were banned from Twitter, or would you not like to share that?
No, I could share it. I started doom scrolling on Twitter today because I was upset about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And Mitch McConnell was on Twitter sharing his statement about the passing of Justice Ginsburg. And in his statement, he gave his justification for pushing through the next Supreme Court nominee before the election of our next president. And I responded that, well, let me make sure I get the quote right. My response was, I hope the fact that you walk without a moral compass leads you straight off a cliff one day, you overgrown piece of wilted lettuce. And Twitter informed me that violated their rules against abuse and harassment, so I got banned.
It's definitely the most milquetoast encouragement towards self-harm that I've ever seen.
I guess. Yeah.
It's funny
apparently it includes hoping someone experiences physical harm, not just expressing a hope that someone experiences harm. So there you go.
It's so funny because I feel like nothing that I report ever ends up getting taken down.
I know. I could be like, yes, the most heinous violence towards women and minorities. You report it, and they're like, meh.
Thank you for letting us know.
Last?
Oh, it's 12 hours. I mean, if I keep doing it, they might ban me forever. But I'm tempted to do it again. I'm tempted to do it again. Should we tell the kids about our Lady Sewed plan?
I think we're going to do it. Why not? I like reading short stories. Takes no work.
Okay.
So we kind of want to be able to read more works by women in the sci-fi fantasy arena. And a lot of the works by women get Hugos for short story, novelette, that sort of thing. So we're going to try this thing Don't hold us to this. But we're going to try this thing where we do a lady-sode, a little mini lady-sode or a regular sode. I'm not sure. Every so often where we read short stories or novelettes or some such by ladies. And we're going to call them lady-sodes. And that's our plan. And this is the first one.
Welcome.
Welcome to the inaugural lady-sode.
So what's really fun is that I took a deep dive into like what the different, so there's so many different categories and it's all according to length at a certain point. So there's novellas, there's novelettes, there's bralettes, there's Brazilian. No.
You stop.
So this is, I already forgot, but this one is it's 5,800 words, which is like a long English paper. So
it sure is. It says it right here on the 8th. By the way, you can read this story, Welcome to Your Authentic Indian Experience TM, for free on the Apex Magazine website. So we should link that in the show notes. And I think we should, and we will.
Yeah, and you can also listen to it on LeVar Burton Reads, which is
So
where
good.
I first heard it.
It was so good.
And it is so good. It's so good, and I love listening to him read. And I don't think that it's specifically like the purpose of his podcast for it to primarily be science fiction and fantasy, but it seems to be because that's just what he likes to read.
Yeah, I think he has that bent.
It's introduced me to a lot of authors that we've then read in the Hugo and Nebula arena. Like I think I first heard an N.K. Jemisin story on LeVar Burton Reads. And he's so comforting.
And do you think he purposefully seeks out writers of color too?
I mean, this all makes sense because he is Geordie LaForge. So
right, he is Geordie LaForge.
I was just thinking, what if the lady-sodes, what if it's Hugo Babygirls? Because they're short and they're little.
Hugo Babygirls.
Colon lady-sodes.
Colon lady-sodes.
And that's not just because that's what I call my cat, baby girl, all the time, but it's fun.
So the story, you guys. Our main narrator, Jesse Turnblatt, works at a company called Sedona Sweats, offering up what they call authentic Indian experiences, which are basically virtual vision quests that they provide to, I'm going to guess, mostly white people. Jesse is an Indian and he works with other Indians doing this. And through the course of the story, he gets a customer who wants an authentic Indian experience, and they end up becoming real life friends. And over the course of the story, Jesse's life gets kind of taken over by this guy. And at the end, you are left wondering whether it was his own vision quest or if it was real. That's the best I think I can do. Y'all add some color to that if you want.
Well, one thing I'll add, because when I was reading about the book and I was reading comments and reviews, for some international listeners had some confusion. Indian in this context is a Native American.
Correct. Yes.
She does not identify our main character Jesse's tribe, I don't think, does she?
I think that's correct.
Yeah, I went back through it to see if she did, and I don't think that she did, although she identifies everyone else's, but we're left not knowing who our main character, what tribe our main character is a member of.
Yeah, but you get like it is interesting you get everybody else's. I didn't even notice that until you just said it. That's interesting.
What's funny is that I was looking at Goodreads reviews of this, and so many angry white women were gatekeeping, and they're like, she's culturally appropriating other Indians. And I was just like,
my God.
I was just like, no, you don't get to say that. You don't get to say that, Betty or Nancy, whatever your name is.
Well, as we learned from this story, just because they have a name like Betty or Nancy does not necessarily mean they're not Indian.
Well, no, this is a straight up white girl. Yeah, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to the story because, these Jesse is working to create a fantasy of, an Indian that doesn't really exist.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the part of the point is that the product is the stereotypes that people want, not what reality is.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I think appropriation is the point. I don't know what people are saying she's appropriating. I guess I don't exactly understand.
Yeah, no, me neither. I think it was just some white women on Goodreads trying to outwoke each other. I don't know. So I did some research because I don't know a lot about Westerns. So there's this paragraph where Jesse says, tourists don't want a real Indian experience. They want what they see in the movies. And who can blame them? Movie Indians are terrific. So you watch the same movie the tourists do until John Dunbar becomes your spirit animal and stands with fists, your best girl. You memorize Johnny Depp's lines from The Lone Ranger and hang a picture of Iron Eyes Cody in your work locker. For a while, you're really into Dustin Hoffman's Little Big Man. So all of these movies and people that he mentioned are all white people who play Native
Indians,
American type people. And I was blown away. So Iron Eyes Cody was in a lot of movies, and also he was famous for being the face of that advertising campaign of like, you know, the Indian with the one tear and the anti-littering thing.
Oh man, really?
He wasn't even Indian. He was Italian. That blew my mind.
I didn't realize that's who that was. That's crazy.
Yeah, if you Google Iron Eyes Cody, there's some wishy-washy thing where, you know, he says he's got some Cherokee, as, you know, they say in the story.
Everyone says that.
I know, and it's
I like that that's included in the story. I feel like everybody's Southern grandma says, "Oh, we're descended from a Cherokee princess."
Yeah, I've done my maternal grandmother's genealogy, and there is none, and my mom swears by it. So, and like, it's not even that. Like, there's nowhere that they would have met a Cherokee in like 1800 Savannah. Like, it just wouldn't have happened. So I don't know.
I read an interesting article a couple months ago about the popular myth where Americans like to believe that they have, it's always Cherokee, that they have a Cherokee ancestor, and it sort of unpacks some of what's underlying that. It was very interesting, and I'm not going to talk about it too much because I don't remember that much, but I'll link it in the show notes.
Is it Cherokee everywhere or just in the South? Because I know, you know, Cherokees were, well, I guess they wouldn't
Southeast primarily.
Yeah.
The article said people in particular say that they have a Cherokee ancestor.
Yeah, and it's a peculiarly Southern thing because, like, you know, my friends that are from New York don't say that, oh, my grandma was Iroquois. Like, no one says that except in the South.
Oh, well, maybe particular here we're trying to be like, no, we're not. We're not all white.
There's some romanticism with maybe the North Carolina mountains. Maybe it's because people... Okay, again... My grandma said it because she tanned well and she had high cheekbones, as if those were the only two features that you could have if you have part. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So
she just decided.
Yeah, she just made it up.
I had a Goodreads review that I wanted to share from Luis, and Luis says, "It was somewhat well written, but ultimately not a good story. The end was very unsatisfying." To which I say, yes, that's the point. It doesn't have a happy, satisfying ending. That is the point.
But it's somewhat well written.
But somewhat well written, yes. It's got a beginning, a middle, and an unsatisfying end. So it's somewhat well written.
This is a classic situation where he could have just said, "I didn't like this story."
Yeah, it's not a helpful review. It doesn't help you think about if you want to read it, or it doesn't help you consider new things about it. Just the end was very unsatisfying. But I mean, that's the point, Luis.
Yeah,
that's the point.
A lot of the Goodreads reviews love to say that it's Westworld meets Black Mirror, whereas I think it's just Westworld. Literally Westworld.
I've never seen it.
Oh, it's very similar. Well, I mean, not really. I guess like Westworld has like robots that pretend to be people in the Old West, and then you can pay money to go live in this world with the robots and live out your fantasy.
Huh. Well, yeah, it's definitely a similar premise.
So, you guys, is Jesse real, or is Jesse not real?
I like to think he's real. I like to think that this is a very literal story. And when I read it for the first time a couple weeks ago, it hit me like a gut punch because like it is literal appropriation in a way that deprives him of everything in his life, which is, you know,
right. Like you put your trust in a white person takes everything away.
Yeah, like, you know, you give somebody all of yourself or all of your country if you're America, and then you just get left with nothing. And there's nothing you can do about it.
I definitely read it as very literal when I first listened to it, and I read it as a horror story. I think this story is a great example of what good science fiction does, which is it boils down some expansive issue to make it very personal. And by doing that, it allows us to really see the horror of what's happening when we can just see it as an interpersonal connection or incident. Whereas on a grand scale, we tend to go, oh, that's too big, I can't look at it. But when you see it as this one-on-one sort of theft of a man's whole life, you can really feel the weight of it. And like you said, Haley, it's like a gut punch. And I took it very literally. And then as I was looking at reviews today, somebody on the Apex website where the story is published, a user named Damien, said, given the very end, it's arguable that Jesse was a temporary illusion. Someone asked for an authentic experience and they got one, starting with being a modern poor Indian shilling his culture to white tourists and then reliving the Indian experience of whites coming, appropriating his culture and taking his livelihood. You, the reader, got an authentic Indian experience. And I was like, oh.
Lori, have that exact comment on my screen right now. Because
I was very mind blown by that.
It blew my mind. I read it and I was like, holy crap. Yeah.
Because they talks about when Jesse's working at the virtual reality place that he has this physical sensation every time he goes into one of the experiences in his little VR pod of sort of being pulled and thinning. And then at the end, the very last sentence is something along those lines of that same sensation. And I just totally overlooked it when I listened to it on LeVar Burton Reads. And so after I read that comment, I went back and read it and I was like, oh. And then that's also a gut punch and a bummer.
I was like, like the idea that at the end of the story, we can leave it and he has to stay in it was just like, it was a lot. It was a lot to think about. Like you go have this authentic Indian experience by reading the story and then you just walk away and you go on with your little white life and you're fine. But this is real history and really happening to, Indians. And it was a lot.
Yeah, I think either way you read it, it's very, very impactful, whether you take it literally or you read it as we got in the VR pod and had the authentic Indian experience. And it was, as Louise says, very unsatisfying.
It was okay.
And somewhat well written.
It was somewhat well written.
That interpretation, brilliant. I love it. I'm here for it. I totally understand it. It's not my preferred way to look at it, but let me tell you 3 reasons why I think it's real and that he's real. For the past couple episodes, we've talked about food in books, which is fun, and there's usually weird things or strange foods that we don't know about. And in the future, in the next couple of months, actually, we're going to be planning a special science fiction and food episode with a special guest. But so there's 3 moments in this that kind of ground me with like a physical existence, and I think that's what one of my favorite things about books and food is, like, it just makes you, I don't know, like, just I remember reading the Boxcar Children growing up and like how they kept the milk behind the rock in the river and having blueberries for breakfast.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know why I to this day remember that and want to have that dinner one day. I don't know. So there's one line where he's talking to his coworker and she's eating in front of him, and then he could smell the onions coming off the sandwich, and I don't know why, but I love that detail. It just seems like something that happens in your office when you're having lunch next to all your coworkers. Second part I love is White Wolf waves you over to an empty booth. A Coors Light waits for you. You slide into the booth and wrap a hand around the cool, damp skin of the bottle, pleasantly surprised. You nod and take a sip. That first sip is always magic, like how you imagine golden Colorado must feel on a winter morning. And as somebody who loves crappy beer, I felt that intimately, that line. And then there's a line that's further down, and he talks about how he's making coffee, or someone's making coffee, and he just, the way she describes it is just, I love it. And then he also says that he puts sugar in it, even though he doesn't usually, and that's just such a quotidian detail, but it makes it seem so much more like real people to me. So those are my 3.
Yeah, she definitely grounds you with smells and like tactile little moments like that, which are very, very good.
But I wonder if that cuts both ways, if that's the quality of the VR experience that you're in.
That's what I was going to say, because
it does generate smells. Jesse tells us that.
That's true. It could go
I also
ways.
wondered what it meant. Haley, when it jumped out at you about the coffee and putting in the cream and sugar, I wondered what that meant. I was so curious about that detail. Why would a person who doesn't like cream and sugar in their coffee put it in there? Because I don't like sugar in my coffee, although I'm unrepentant. All my teeth are sweet teeth. I really, really don't like sugar in my coffee. And so to me, it was shocking that a person who normally drinks black coffee would add milk and sugar to coffee in their house. It's not like they're on a plane and the water is terrible, or a hotel coffee, or, they're just like desperate to make it drinkable. Why did he do that? That really jumped out at me, and I wondered if it was important, but I didn't know what to do with it.
I think it's because he's sitting there talking to White Wolf and he's about to read that letter from his wife. And I honestly think he's just adding to his little routine to buy some time.
Yeah.
Want something to do with his hands.
Yeah. Like he just adds milk, adds sugar, stirs us to coffee because he's just trying to slow walk it. Like that was the only thing I took away from that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the VR experience can recreate smells and recreate that sort of thing. And she writes this whole story from the second person so that you are doing XYZ thing. You are doing XYZ thing. So you walk into the bar, you sit down, you grab your beer. You are really happy about how sweaty and cold it is. So I was wondering if is that a giveaway that we're in the pod, or is it just, to me, it makes it so immediate. It makes you the subject of the story. It makes it seem like it's, yes, you are in the pod. You are doing these things. You are experiencing this authentic Indian experience, and then you will walk away when it is over. But so just the combination of the second person and those little grounding moments to me is what made me think maybe we're supposed to be, having this VR experience. I guess I don't know if y'all had thoughts about that.
I mean, I think it goes both ways. Like you could be in a pod, or you could just be a man that works at a pod place, and you're the subject. So both ways.
Yeah, I agree. It could go both ways, because sometimes I often wonder what it means when an author chooses a particular person or a particular tense. Like, for example, this is something I always forget to mention, but I've always found it really pretentious when an author writes a novel in present tense. And I don't know why. I guess it's because 98% of novels are written in simple past tense. And then sometimes we get a book where I walk and I open the door and I look out, and it feels pretentious to me. But I didn't think about it until I read that comment that was like, no, it's you're in the pod and you are actually having this experience. So I didn't see it until it was pointed out. But now that it's been pointed out, I can't unsee it. But I think the fact that I didn't see it to begin with, to me, I'm going to agree with Haley that I think it can be both, and maybe she means for it to be both, because there's this story, this tiny, tiny story has a lot of layers. So I don't see any reason why she might not have intended both.
I agree. I think it can easily go both ways. I was just curious, because I mean, yeah, I get bothered when people make that weird little choice to either write things in the first person omniscient or something, or write it in like present tense, or any of those little choices you make that make your book different from 98% of the other novels in the world. So it only makes sense if it has a reason, right? So sometimes people just choose to do it, I think, because it's edgy or something, or different or whatever. But this one, it really seemed like it had a reason. Like it adds so much to the story that she chose to put it in second sense. And I remember you told me that it was in second person before we read it, and I was like, oh God, but then like reading it, it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense that she chose to do that.
I like the second person. I think it like kind of grounds you in the character. Like even this line right now, you've never actually tried peyote, but you did smoke your share of weed during that 1 year at Arizona State. And like, I think that's cool, because it's one thing to say, and then Jesse, a Native American, remembered that he did smoke weed when he went to Arizona State, but there's just something about it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it works really well.
Yeah, agreed. And it definitely puts you in like, no, you are going to live this Indian's experience, by God.
True.
There's no removal. There's no, one removed for you while you're reading the story. You are Jesse. I
mean, there's one line when he gets upset when he gets fired, and he literally wakes up in a gutter, and it starts with, you wake up in a gutter, and
yeah, it's good.
And the experience of a lot of Native Americans with alcoholism and depression and poverty. I mean, it's just a literal gut punch. Again, say it again. And I don't use this word lightly. Like, to be honest, even though I read like a fiend, very few things that I read make me feel anything. Normally, I'm just like, oh, this is fascinating, or I'm going to intellectually ponder this. But when I finished this, I was laying upstairs in my guest bedroom actually reading it, and I was like, damn. Oof.
Yeah, this is a lot of reaction from you. Like,
true.
I love it, and I get it. Like, it is a gut punch. When she described the taste on the inside of his mouth when he woke up in the gutter, I was just like, blah. It was really good. The description was really good. I'm just see if I can find it real quick. But
Yeah, I think not one word of this story is wasted.
yeah.
Everything has a job and is suffused with meaning or even a couple of meanings.
It's like a big poem almost. Like everything is pregnant.
So you wake up in the gutter, the fucking gutter, with your head aching and your mouth as dry and rotted as month-old roadkill. So good.
And with the you just can't as a reader stay arm's length from it.
Yeah.
In conclusion, I think that this is a very well written, ultimately good story with a deliberately unsatisfying end.
Yeah, I agree. And this is why I'm buying her books, because she's obviously a very good and very thoughtful writer. Now, sometimes people are good at short stories and they're not good at novels. So it'll be interesting to see, because she has this short story format. And like you said, no word is wasted and it's all very thoughtful and very impactful. And I'm wondering if in a larger format, I'm interested to see what happens to her writing style.
So this is what fascinates me about creative writing. So in college, I took a lot of poetry classes because you control like every word has to do so much, and you literally know every single word. Everyone is thoughtfully chosen. But like, I've never really sat down and wrote a lot of prose, except for a really long Star Wars book I wrote when I was in 7th grade. But
oh man, we should read that one for an episode sometime.
I get fascinated when I think about somebody sitting down to write a 400-page book, and like, do you just let the spirit take you? Like, it just has to open a floodgate at some point. Or maybe some people compose every sentence like it is poetry. I don't know.
I think everybody's a little different.
From a lot of what we've read, they're not composing every sentence like it's poetry. As we have our perennial complaint is that novels need more editing.
Yes.
I definitely think
most
on the
novels
writer, right? Like Hemingway was kind of famous for writing like one sentence every day or something like that. But then other writers are like just vomit on the page and call it a day.
Yeah. And some people are better at prose than idea and vice versa. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, this is the first thing we've read in a while where it was, well, I mean, I say that it might not be completely totally true, but I feel like it was one of the first things we read in a while where it was like idea and execution were both excellent,
Ooh, chef's kiss. Yes.
Yes.
Cool. Anything else? What else? I think we've touched on a lot of stuff. I mean, we've talked for a fair amount of time on just a short story. Yeah. No,
It's a mini-sode. It's all good.
Yeah. Hugo Babygirl.
No, it's a mini-sode. That's the kind of sode we have made is a mini-sode.
Yep.
You guys, I don't want to get your hopes up, but I just read on Tor.com that Amazon has optioned this story for a movie.
Oh, yeah. I had that in my notes. I forgot to mention it. Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
It could be cool.
You never know.
I think it should be one episode of television, and that's it. It should be a 30-minute episode of television.
Yeah, I saw, in addition to comparisons to Westworld and Black Mirror, I saw comparisons to Twilight Zone. So yeah, I think it would be like a good episode. I think you're right.
It's a one-off. It'd be a good YouTube short or something.
Yeah.
Maybe it could. I mean, it took LeVar Burton an hour to read it, so maybe it could be a 90-minute movie. That's my favorite amount of time for a movie.
There you go.
90 minutes.
A nice Disney animated length movie.
Disney, oh no.
No, I don't want them to do it. And I also don't want to brag, but she's also a lawyer. I'm just saying.
Oh, cool. I did not know that.
We make the best writers. It's true.
We do. We're the best people.
We're the best. Everybody agrees, right?
Shakespeare definitely said, first thing we do is save all the lawyers.
Well, actually, my grandma gave me...
You just literally said, well, actually.
I did.
Oh, no.
And I was aware of it while I was saying it. My grandma gave me a thing at my law school graduation that had that quote, and it was sort of an article discussing that quote and how it's taken out of context.
Yep.
And it was the bad people saying the first thing we do, we kill all the lawyers because the lawyers are the ones who would protect the rule of law and people's rights.
That's right.
So Shakespeare was actually saying we're the good guys.
I have to stop myself from telling that story every time I hear someone use that quote because it's like the worst thing. I want to actually everyone about that all the time, and I have to.
I mean,
myself.
that seems fine. Why not?
I didn't know that. I totally yeah. Well, so here's the thing: you can actually when it's needed, and occasionally. Like I have a friend who does it at least every day that I talk to him. and it's frustrating. But sometimes it's okay because sometimes you actually know something that somebody else doesn't.
Right. Like
That's
every
true.
explanation is not a mansplanation.
Absolutely.
That's true.
Sometimes you just explain something.
Yeah. And there's ways to do it without being an asshole too. It's like, oh well, did you really know that it wasn't? There's just be a human being about it.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's possible to, actually, in a way that's not actually so actually-ish.
Well, actuallyception.
Guys, thank you so much for making our fundraiser for the Women's Prison Book Project great.
Yeah, $800.
Yeah,
It's
it's
amazing.
awesome. And dear listener, Catherine Wooten has won a Hugo Girl t-shirt, and a bunch of people won masks. It was great.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was fun. And I'm happy we got to spread the word about the organization because the people who donated seemed excited about it. So
Yeah.
hopefully that becomes something that people can support regularly when they're looking to chip in some money somewhere. Yeah.
Oh, Lori and Amy don't know about this yet, but I just thought about it today.
Exciting.
Because
A surprise.
Exciting.
as everyone in my life now knows, I'm apparently obsessed with Halloween / a Satan worshiper.
Words.
And I was wondering if we could do a Halloween episode.
Why
Yeah.
not?
Maybe we could there's a lot of there's a lot of horror short stories that have won awards, so maybe we could find a good one.
Definitely.
We just put that into the
Totally.
universe. I just like spooky stuff. I'm trying to capitalize on spooky season.
Oh, you
So-
know what we could do? We could do The Lottery by Shirley Jackson.
Ooh. Although, all
Or
right, here's what I
not.
really want. I really want something that's haunted housey.
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
there's the Good Witch book club that we follow on Instagram from the podcast account, and they're reading a book this month. It's a Shirley Jackson book, and it's called "We Have Always Lived in the Castle," and the cover looks really spooky.
Ooh.
Oh, I own that
So-
book. I really
Oh,
want to
do
read
you?
it. Yeah.
Oh, you haven't read it yet?
I haven't read it. I just have it.
Let's do it.
And that one might be scary. It's got a black cat and
Ooh.
people with hollow eyes on the cover.
That's all I want in this world.
Yeah, we'll check it out. Maybe that can be a Halloween special.
Oh,
Spooky
God.
special.
We did like an old timey radio show, and I have clanking chains and like a creaking door. I don't know. I'm just getting excited, guys.
Oh, I love that. Well, Kevin is pretty good at plugging in little noises here and there, and like those commercial clips from YouTube and stuff. I think we can do this.
Yeah.
I think we can make this happen.
Thank you for agreeing to further my obsession with spooky things.
Hey, it's finally getting chilly. It feels so spooky outside. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy about it. I sat on the porch with socks on and a sweater.
So we should
With my-
explain. So among the three of us, we starting in August usually, as soon as it gets below 85 degrees and the below like 70% humidity, I start thinking that it's feeling like fall, which is not true. My temperature system is broken because I've lived in Georgia my entire life. But and I don't know if we started this or I was doing it or Lori was doing it, but we keep thinking that fall weather, you say it feels spooky outside. So we always text each other when it feels spooky and it's fun. It's like saying go outside and seize the spooky air. It's nice, crisp apples, that etc.
Other people might be like, the moon is pretty. We're like, it's spoopy outside.
Yeah. But I was at the gym the other day and I was, everyone was like, oh, it was like 8:30 in the morning, so it was crisp and spooky. And I was explaining that it felt in fact spooky, and they were just like, huh? And I was like, like fall. They're like, oh yeah, fall. And I was like, how do you not put those two together? So
Yeah. No,
hopefully you will all begin to
Girl.
use that in your own life.
we're with you.
Well, and personally, I like to say spoopy with two
it's
P's,
spoopy. Yeah.
or I like to say there's a spoop in the air.
It is rather spoopy today.
So look out next
And
month
the
in
origin of
October. We'll
spook,
have
actually.
our Halloween special, Hugo Girl.
No. It's gonna be Hugo Girl.
You ghost girl.
Wait, Hugo Ghoul.
You ghost ghoul.
I love it so much. I'm gonna go start brainstorming right now.
Yeah, I just Googled that story real quick, and it looks more like it's a mystery, so we might need to look for something ghostier.
We'll figure it out.
I'll do
Give
some
us some
research. Yeah.
All right. I'm excited about it. Anything
Yeah.
else, everybody?
Nope. Good.
All right. Well, this has been Hugo School. Bye.
Bye.
Happy birthday, dear Satan.